Happy Sunday, y'all. Hope your weekend has been fantastic. We're going to be going over the watch list this week, mainly just the swing trades, since the other tickers that I add on it are pretty straightforward for day trades. So the first one I have on the list is Microsoft. This is on the weekly time frame, where we have this double inside bar setup. Personally, I'm not really looking to go long on it. I just added the long levels for whoever has a long setup, but I personally wouldn't really care too much for a long. The way I would probably map out this trade is this upcoming week, once we break last week's low, I'll be going short there. My stop loss on this trade, let's get that out of the way first. I'll probably have at the 61 pips about $8, give or take. If you want to make a little tighter, you can just have it at 50% of the last week's range, which technically, if it does trigger us and then it comes back up, if it hits 50% or higher, it's probably not going to work out since it shouldn't pull back that much. So this will be a safer stop loss or a more conservative one. Now, for the first target, generally we can use bodies as well for the strat targets. Because it's a weekly setup, I'm probably going to be using this week's low as the first target right here. Whoops. Second target can either be this body or this wick. Probably use this body. And then we can use this wick. Realistically, I'll probably be aiming for this over here, but this can be a decent one as well. So as always, if trading shares, pretty straightforward, just size accordingly. For options, again, because this is a weekly setup, I'm going to be going at least 30 days out. No more, no less than that, personally. Some people like to be adventurous and get weeklies. I'm not that adventurous for swings because we want time and we want the trades to pan out properly. So when it comes to strike prices, just use the ATR as a good indication of what you may choose. So in this case, because the ATR is about $9, I would probably choose a strike price that's $10 away or like between 10, I would say the most like maybe $10, $12 away from the entry. So if our entry is at 519, the furthest strike that I'll probably choose myself will be 509 to 507 or 510. You can potentially stretch it out to 505, but again, I rather get in the money sooner than later to just maximize on all the delta. Let's go to the next one. So for coin, we have a reverse hammer on the weekly time frame. So for those who are familiar with the H pattern or the bearish TTO for the strat, this is basically a setup that we have right now for it. The only thing that I don't like about this setup is usually for these bearish TTOs, I'm adding my stop loss above the crest of the H, right? So this is the H, the crest will be right up here. So I'm always putting my stop loss above here because it should not reverse from this point. If it does, the trade is completely invalidated. The reason why I don't necessarily like this one is because the completed TTO or H pattern is going to be breaking this low, and the risk reward is not even one. So I would usually just skip these. Again, you could just use 50% of this reverse hammer as your stop loss, which will give us a risk reward of one or higher, which is for me mandatory. It has to be 1 to 1 or higher. But again, I don't like using my stop losses for these setups here. So I leave that up to you guys. You can skip it. You can do it this way. really whatever you prefer. Now, after we hit this target, the next strat target is going to be this body's low or the wick. However, that's a pretty big range to clear. It's about 48 points, give or take. So just marking off this fib level from this week, we can use these fib levels as additional targets. You can pause the video here if you want to take note of these targets, but just something to keep in mind. So if we do use, let's say, even the 50 fib as a target, the risk reward will be decent with the stop loss up here. Again, I personally probably am not going to take this trade. I just know people who like trading coins, so I'm just adding this for them. Keep in mind as well that coin, because it's a crypto stock, it's going to be following Bitcoin. So you always want to reference Bitcoin as well. Right now, Bitcoin has a reverse hammer on the weekly as well. So keep that in mind. If Bitcoin does close as a reverse hammer and then overnight it breaks this low, it can give us more confluence for the short on Coinbase. So keep that in mind. Again, take a look at its ATR. So if it were to trigger at 314, a 300 put or 295 put would be in my sights to take for this setup. Next up we have is Kava on the daily time frame. We have a double inside bar on the daily. So this can go either way. We can either take it short or we can take it long. Now, taking it long, just keep in mind we have this big gap over here to fill. I'm not sure why it's not giving data on earnings, but I got to check that out. It looks like after earnings, it just got killed to the downside. So got to see what's happening there. Let's bring up these fibs real quick. So for this specific setup, if I'm going to be taking it to the long side, going to be as soon as this breaks above that inside bar. To give it a little more room, I'd probably use this down here as my stop loss. If you want to be more conservative, definitely be using this, but that can probably be hit in like a day. And for swings, I like to give it a little more room. First target is going to be this high. So last Wednesday's high is going to be the first target that I would have. Because we have this big gap, some people like to just aim for the gap fill as a target. To me, that's probably not realistic, especially if earnings was bad. So I probably use these fib levels as additional targets as we get to the gap fill. Because what you don't want is for, us to trigger in this trade, we're right about to fill the gap and then it just reverses and then you end up red. So I always like to take profit as it goes in our favor. To the short side, something like this. I probably wouldn't use this Wix low as a first target. I'll probably use Wednesday's low as one target. And then from there, what else we got? 60, 65. Yeah, 63 would be the next area to take some profit at. 59. Kava moves roughly like $4 a day. So this can potentially hit in 2, 3 days of movement. We just have to see what it wants to do. UPST, nice inside bar setup on the daily. This is essentially a potential double bottom trade, or for those who know of my setup, the W. So for this trade, I'll be looking to go long once this breaks to the upside. If you want a tighter stop loss, I always use the bottom right as my stop. However, let's give a little more room. Just do the bottom left, about 6 more cents. First target is going to be the center being taken out. You can use the body or the wick. Either one is fine. And then the second target is going to be this body or the wick, whichever you prefer. I'd probably use the body because it might get sold off right before it hits that. We have a little gap here as well that needs to be filled. This one I definitely like since it's one of my setups. As always, for those who may be new to my watch list and the way I take these trades, if this gaps up by a good amount, I'm not going to take the trade, right? So like if it opens up here, I'm not going to take it. That's just a rule that I have because the risk increases and the reward decreases. So generally, I want it to open up as another inside bar and then break that level so we can get in at the proper area. If it's like 10 cents away from the trigger, sure, I'll still take it. It's not that big of a deal. But for the most part, I would avoid chasing trades. See, 64, a 69 or a 70 call based on the ATR might be decent. This is on the daily, so at least 2 weeks out minimum. And I'll post it on the watch list notes as well on the expiration dates that I usually go for. But that's pretty much all I have for the specific stocks. Let's look at news next. So for news this week, looks like a pretty relaxed Monday and Tuesday. Keep in mind, I always recommend you guys check out roll call and look at Trump's calendar. They usually update when he's going to be talking. And I've seen before where it doesn't say that he's talking here, and then I'll refresh this on the day of in the morning, and then it'll say, hey, he's going to be talking. So just keep that in mind. I personally don't like trading when he's talking because he can say something and it's either going to bless your position or it's going to completely blow it out the water. So Monday, Tuesday should be pretty chill, just yellow folders, nothing too crazy. Wednesday, we have the FOMC minutes. I don't expect anything crazy because we already know what this is. This is from the last meeting that they had. For those who trade oil, just keep in mind at 10:30, we have crude oil inventory. So that's just spike oil in either direction, depending on the results. We got FOMC member speaking. Orange folder can go either red or yellow. So keep that in mind. Thursday, we have some decent news. PMI at 9:45, home sales at 10 a.m., and jobless claims as always every Thursday. This is also Eastern time. So just make sure you know what time that triggers at your appropriate time zone. We have Jackson Hole event on Friday. So that's going to be the biggest event this week. I'm personally either not going to trade on Friday and just, get an early weekend, or if I do see a good setup of mine, I'm probably going to use half my position size, but only until 10 a.m. I don't like I don't like trading when people are talking like big news events, especially if Jerome Powell is talking. I'm definitely not going to be trading during that. So I'll probably just trade for 30 minutes on Friday if anything shows up. If not, I just won't even bother looking at the charts that day. Other than that, it's pretty much all I have for the watch list. As always, if this was helpful, definitely, like the video to let me know that you guys enjoy this. Subscribe if you aren't a subscriber already. I definitely appreciate every single one of you. And as always, any questions, let me know in the comments below and we'll talk about it. I will see you guys on the next one and have a great week.